final news story of the week. This is just something happy that I chanced upon, and I'd like to share the good news. Often on the Nintendo Switch eStore, there are sales, and I picked up Sega Age's OutRun for a mere £1.79. And I looked it up on the US eShop. It's actually $2.39, but I actually had some points, so I actually only paid 50p for it. And I think this promotion is running until the 14th of July. And what can I say? I bought it. I love it. It's beautiful on the Switch. M2, classic conversion smiths have just done a fantastic job with this. And it's the kind of game, John, that I'd only really buy and play on the Switch, which kind of is an interesting scenario, right?
I mean, it's such a great pick up and play sort of game. Like that and Virtua Racing.
Which I also got on sale.
Yeah, I leave that on my Switch all the time, and just, I still play them fairly regularly because you can just have a go at it and have a great time, and you feel very satisfied just from that. It's honestly amazing thinking about games like OutRun, Virtua Racing, Sega Rally Daytona. Like they're like 3 or 4 minutes long in some ways. Like Sega Rally especially, it's like 4 minutes the whole game from the start to finish. Yet people still talk about it because they're so rewarding, and they just the skill ceiling is high enough where it just keeps you coming back, and that continuously cements in my mind that sometimes quality is way more important than quantity in games. When you execute something that's so tight and brilliantly made, like it doesn't matter how little there actually is. When it's that good and it really demands perfection from the player and rewards it, it's so good. And that's the kind of stuff I love. And that's why these games, all these years later, are still amazing to play.
Yeah, and it's literally nothing to buy, and it's just there, and it's brilliant, and it's just going to sit on my Switch forever now, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. And the quality of the port, I mean, this is M2; they just don't do things by halves. They are respectful to the original source material, but they embellish where they can. I mean, you've got extra music tracks that weren't there in the original arcade version, but were kind of culled from various other versions that appeared over the years. You've got 60 frames per second. As the default option when the original ran at 30 in the arcade, but you can actually switch it back to 30 if you want. You've got various borders and scanline modes. You've got an arcade style border on it as well, so it looks like the cabinet.
Yep.
You've got really good scaling. It's actually quite interesting in that I think you're getting integer scaling as standard, but you also have a smooth option, and it just doesn't look particularly good.
No.
But it does highlight that, hey, well, maybe smoothing off all of these older pixel art games just isn't a good idea generally. It's kind of like an example of that. And, you get access to all of the original sort of options that the arcade game had that were unseen by the user. For example, the arcade operator could make the game harder or easier. And, that means that, although I'll tell you what, John, I mean, it's still really difficult for me many, many years on, having played this game much, to get past the third stage.
The game is actually challenging, and you gotta be in the right mindset at it. I seem to recall Jazz being really good at OutRun.
I don't know about that, but he was pretty good at a lot of games.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, finding the ways to get through the OutRun smoothly is such a satisfying experience.
Yeah.
Honestly, by the way, there's actually other OutRun news that I just saw this week. I don't know if I posted it on Twitter.
2006?
Yes.
Yeah, the 2006 PC port, there's a mod and tweaker that came out that allows for arbitrary frame rates above 60, scaling of the UI, and also increasing things like the reflection quality in the game, which was limited originally by, I don't know, really old GPUs at the time period, and I guess originally Xbox arcade hardware. So in that place, the one issue with this though is that that's really awesome that this has come out now, so you can play the game in like a really great way on PC, including widescreen. But I think this is a game that isn't sold anywhere anymore, on the PC stores at least. So there isn't this great ability to get it like that game on the Switch. Like this game is like just abandonware at this point. And I find that a real shame. I really wish these things didn't happen. I have no idea why. Why would this game particularly, John? Is it the music?
No, that's internal
It's the
Sega music.
Ferraris.
It's the Ferraris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they wanted
darn.
to keep that Ferrari license, the association, and clearly,
Oh, that's
from what I've heard, Ferrari demands a lot of money for licenses. They didn't used to, apparently.
Oh, okay.
But
Which brings me back to the only thing I don't like about this Switch port, which is the fact that you don't have the Ferrari there anymore.
Right. And I think
Ferrari badge at the back has kind of given way to some weird Phoenix-like shape, which I just think they should have just removed the badge completely if you couldn't be there.
Exactly. So
It's funny.
I think it works for OutRun, regular OutRun. And what makes OutRun 2006, OutRun 2 so difficult is that because it's 3D cars, those models, it's like they're unmistakably Ferraris. You can't just change the badge and say it's not a Ferrari.
I thought
It's a
about this
Ferrari.
recently. You know, like with like sports games, you can just make random NPCs look like whatever, you know. But with a car, unless you're a sci-fi game, like it is almost impossible to not have that like shape language from a certain manufacturer. It's very hard.
So that I think that's the problem there, unfortunately. But man, OutRun, it's worth obtaining however you can. The other version I love that M2 did is the 3DS version. That actually might be my favorite version.
Yeah.
Because first of all, they have it designed so that it perfectly matches the wide aspect ratio of 3DS, but it's 1:1 pixel. So it runs the 3DS native res, which is like 400 by 240. So it's like, it's very, very sharp. And it supports 3D, which is really good
cool.
on this kind of game with the sort of super scalar look. So man, it's awesome. It's awesome on the 3DS. They also did, I think, not Outrunners. They did a Turbo Outrun. They did sort of an enhanced it's like an enhanced version of Turbo Outrun for 3DS as well. And it's freaking awesome. Best version of that by far.
The Switch one's widescreen as well.
It is. Absolutely.
But there is the option, of course, to play it at 4:3. But for me, I mean, this is just a joy because, you know, when I was young, you could only really play it in the arcade for a good experience. I remember, I think I've told this story on the Direct before, that I got the Commodore 64 version for Christmas and it was just, you know, not particularly great. And it never could be great, to be fair. And then, of course, there's the whole Master System debacle.
Are you familiar with the Amiga version?
No.
The intro to that is so funny. I actually think you should insert it here right now because it's one of the funniest things you've ever seen. You never guess, like, wait, this is OutRun?
US Gold present from Sega.
It sounds like it basically starts with like US Gold presents Sega OutRun, and then they play like rev the engine. They play this like horror music, and it's like you're like, what is going on here? It's so bizarre.
The original Vision. Yu Suzuki's original Vision.
Unfortunately, M2 did not see fit to include that in the Switch version.
What a mistake.
Happy days. But what can I say? Those happy days are here again with a really good port of OutRun that now is just ridiculously cheap on the eShop. So if you've got a Nintendo Switch, I do highly recommend checking it out.